Let's be honest. How many times have you read a book, only to forget most of it a week later? How much can you recall from that article you enjoyed reading last month? The reality is that most of us tend to forget things quickly. Studies reveal that you're likely to forget about 50% of what you read within a day and up to 90% within a month. This phenomenon is known as the forgetting curve. It's a widely recognized memory model that tells us you won't remember much of what you've read unless you take specific actions to remember it. So, how can you fight this tendency to forget? The good news is, you don't need a superhuman memory to remember everything. What you do need is to change your reading habits. In this video, we'll share 6 super effective habits that will transform how you read and greatly improve your ability to remember. Let's dive right in. Habit number 1. Read books you can use instantly. One way to remember what you read is by putting it into practice. Elon Musk, when asked how he learned to build rockets, simply said, "I read books." While you can learn almost anything from books, just reading them won't get you very far. Elon Musk didn't just read about rockets, he actually built one. The key difference lies in applying what you read. It separates the 1% who truly experience what a book say from the 99% who just read it without experiencing it. If you aspire to be among the top 1%, you must put what you read into practice. Why does application matter so much? Because it's in applying what you read that you truly understand and remember it. According to Edgar Dale's cone of experience, we tend to remember only about 10% of what we read, but a significant 90% of what we do. In other words, if you want to retain knowledge, you need to put it into action. For example, let's say you feel anxious about public speaking before your upcoming work presentation. Rather than just reading about public speaking techniques, you get in front of your team and put those techniques into real practice. Reading is like unlocking the door, and applying what you've learned is like taking that step inside. Because it's easier said than done, you need to be picky. Pick books that address your current challenges and will have the most impact on your life, work, or thinking. After reading these books, it's like giving your brain a software update. They transform the way you think and act for the better. And the more you recognize the benefits and what's in it for you, the more your memory will prioritize them. Habit number 2. Read with a pen in your hand. Another way to remember what you read is by writing in your books. Francis Bacon, an English philosopher, once said, "Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested." One way to chew and digest what we read is to comment on what someone else has written. This is done through marginalia, an ancient practice where you write your thoughts in the empty spaces around the book's text. Think of it as creating your own dialogue with the author, where you become both the reader and the writer. You'll gain a deeper understanding of what you're reading when you actively thinking about the text and asking questions, even if it's just in the book's margins. Some of the brightest minds of all time used marginalia. Mark Twain practiced it, as did Isaac Newton. Edgar Allan Poe, in fact, relied on it so much that he would even assess the available margin space in a book before purchasing it, ensuring he had enough room for his own notes. So, why is writing in the margins so powerful? Writing keeps you fully engaged and helps you remember the author's ideas. Putting in extra effort is a great way to beat the forgetting curve. At first, you might feel hesitant to write in your books, but it becomes easier when you think of them as valuable long-term investments. Imagine someone handed you your favorite book filled with Mark Twain's thoughts. That would be priceless, right? If you're a Harry Potter fan, you probably remember when Harry found the Half-Blood Prince's annotated potions book at Hogwarts. This book was filled with notes, tips, and thoughts that Professor Snape had written in the margins. He even left his signature in the book, which read, "This book is the property of the Half-Blood Prince." So, when you write in your books, you're making them your own, your property. It also helps you enjoy the reading more and remember key points to revisit later. Habit number 3. Use the question book method. Let's talk about an easy way to boost your memory and remember more: the question book method. This technique, used by the learning expert Scott Young, played a key role in his incredible achievement of finishing a 4-year MIT computer science degree in just 12 months. The method is quite simple. Instead of just summarizing the main points, you take notes in the form of questions. Let's break down exactly how it works. Start by making questions. When you read something you want to remember, write notes in the form of questions that the text answers. For example, if you're reading about personal finance and it says to save 20% of your paycheck, frame it as a question. How much money should you save each month? With the answer being 20% of your paycheck. After you finish reading and write down your questions, go back and test yourself on these questions. To make it easy, mark the pages where you've taken notes with Post-it notes and write the questions on them. It's like having your own mini exam. This method is simple, but here's a golden rule. Keep it simple. Don't drown yourself in questions. Trying to remember every little detail from a book can make reading less enjoyable. 1 or 2 questions per chapter usually do the trick for most books. This simple habit of turning information into questions is a huge memory booster, and the best part is it only takes a few seconds. Habit number 4. Build a bridge of knowledge. Another super effective way to boost your memory is by linking new information to what you already know. When you read something new, think of it like building a bridge. You have the solid old pillars representing what you already know, your foundation. Then, there are new shiny pieces symbolizing fresh ideas. The key is to connect these new parts to what you already know. When you link new material to things you already understand, you're more likely to remember it. So, try to use real-world examples and situations as much as possible. For effective bridge building, you can use a technique called mind mapping. A mind map is like a diagram that visually organizes information. It uses images that are quick for the brain to scan and understand, making it easier to remember. Let's say you're reading about budget planning. To create your mind map, start with a central idea, like budget planning. Add branches for subtopics like income and expenses, and create sub-branches for details like rent and bills. Use colors and symbols to make your mind map engaging, highlighting essential points. The goal of a mind map is to help you organize and connect ideas in a way that makes sense to you. You can personalize your mind map to suit your specific needs, just like building a bridge that fits your unique journey. Habit number 5. Explain it to a child. Another way to boost your memory and remember what you read is by telling others what you have learned. There's a famous quote by Albert Einstein that goes like this: "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." This quote forms the core of the Feynman technique, created by Richard Feynman, a theoretical physicist who received the Nobel Prize in 1965. So, what exactly is the Feynman technique, and how can it help you remember what you've read? In a nutshell, the Feynman technique consists of 3 main steps. First, imagine you're teaching the topic to a child, using the simplest language possible. Next, identify the parts that you struggle to explain. These are your knowledge gaps. Revisit these sections until you grasp them well enough to simplify and explain them to others. Finally, further simplify your explanation by using analogies. For example, when learning about investing, think of it like planting a garden. You nurture your investments, and over time they yield returns, similar to how plants bear fruit. When you reach this stage, you can be confident that you've mastered the topic. Why is the Feynman technique so effective? The key benefit of this technique is that it uncovers weaknesses in your understanding and explanation. It helps you pinpoint what requires further review and to remember those tricky parts you tend to forget. Mastering the skill of explaining a topic simply and effectively may take time, but it's one of the best ways to both understanding and remembering what you've read. Habit number 6. Keep it simple with the rule of 3. The last habit on our list is all about making your notes easy to understand and remember. When you finish reading a book, don't just close it and let the information get lost in the chaos of your mind. Take a moment to create short and focused summaries that capture the key points. You don't have to write a lot, and using a template can make this process much smoother. Now, how can you make your summaries more effective? One of the simplest and most powerful methods is to apply the rule of 3. This means organizing information in sets of 3 because people tend to remember and connect with things presented in threes. You encounter this pattern in everyday life, like the Three Musketeers or the famous McDonald's tagline, "I'm loving it." The rule of 3 creates a rhythm that resonates with both our emotions and logical thinking. So, when creating your summaries, try to stick to 3s. Write a summary in 3 sentences, highlight 3 favorite quotes, and outline 3 main takeaways along with practical ways to apply them. And remember, regular review of your summaries is essential. Your brain is more likely to consider information important if it's reinforced through repetition. Each time you revisit the material, your retention rate goes back up to 100%. And that's it! With these 6 reading habits, you can become an active reader and remember much more. If you enjoyed watching this video, hit that subscribe button and turn the notifications on. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.